There is a voice inside every submissive, not the loud one that society taught you, not the one that says you should be strong, you should be in control, you need to stand strong and never bend to another's will, especially a woman's. Be a real man. You like my male voice? Hello, my pets, and welcome into The Dungeon, the podcast for submissives to learn, grow, be entertained, and ultimately find empowerment in their lifestyle. I'm your host, KatNash, the Music City Dominatrix, and this week I'm talking about the quieter voice, the one that whispers in the background, the one that emerges when you exhale and you finally stop pretending. For many submissives, that voice gets buried under years of conditioning. It's layered with guilt, shame, and fear of having this part of them, this truth, be truly seen. But it's still there, soft, steady, patient. It doesn't scream for dominance, it longs to surrender for it. That inner voice is the part of you that already knows who you are when no one's watching. But here's what most submissives don't realize, at least not at first. The voice of a good submissive doesn't just exist automatically good and perfect. It's trained, it's nurtured, it's strengthened. Because when you're new to this, that voice might sound unsure. It might say things like, "Ooh, I don't deserve this," or "I'm not a good enough submissive," or "What if I mess it all up? I don't know what I'm doing. What if I'm doing this wrong?" But the submissives who thrive, the ones who feel aligned, alive, and truly owned and fulfilled, these guys have learned to train their inner voice into something powerful. Instead of saying, "I'm not good enough," their inner voice says, "I'm devoted," or "I'm ready to learn," or "I offer myself with grace." Instead of, "What if I fuck up?" their voice says, "I trust my dominance hand," or "Mistakes are part of my training and learning," or "I'm excited to learn and grow into the perfect sub." Do you see the shift, the perspective shifts? And that transformation, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens in the quiet moments when you're kneeling alone in your room, or when your hands are trembling before sending a message of obedience, or when you look in the mirror wearing something that once made you feel shame and now makes you feel free. That's when the real training happens. Not just in the rituals, it's not just in the tasks, but in what you tell yourself when you're doing them. A good submissive's inner voice isn't groveling. It isn't begging to be worthy. It's not needy. It directs its energy into learning and growing. It whispers things like, "I was made to serve with joy," or "Every day I'm getting better and better at serving," or "I choose this and it makes me powerful." When you learn to speak to yourself like this, everything else in your dynamic deepens. Everything will shift. Tasks will feel more intentional. Rituals feel alive. Punishment feels like growth, not rejection. And rewards, they feel like divine acknowledgement. The best dominance can shape and guide, but you are the one who shapes the voice inside. As doms, we can instruct till we're blue in the face, but the one thing we cannot control is exactly what plays in your mind, the voice that you tell yourself. It's your responsibility to make it strong, to make it loving, to make it loyal. It's your responsibility to accept guidance. So if your inner voice is still timid and tangled in shame or struggling to suppress the ego, start small. Each day, give it a new line to say, a new mantra, a new truth. And eventually, without forcing it, that voice becomes the steady heartbeat of who you are. It grows stronger and stronger with repetition. A submissive whose inner voice is trained isn't waiting to be told that they're worthy. They know it. And that knowing makes their submission irresistible, radiant, unshakable. Without the constant need for validation or praise, the submissive can sink more fully, comfortably, and wholly into their role with confidence. And the FemDom is then free to more fully embody her power and goddess self without having to babysit or coddle her sub's emotional state. Your dominant can command your body, but only you can command your inner world. So train that voice little by little. Make it soft but unbreakable. Make it yours. And watch how everything in your dynamic begins to rise to meet it. Most submissives think training starts with rituals, kneeling, rules, tasks, maybe plugs, outfits, protocols. But real submission doesn't just live in your posture. It lives in your head. It grows from your head. It's the inner voice that decides whether you kneel with confidence or with doubt. Whether you show up as a trembling question mark or as someone who understands exactly what they are offering. And don't get me wrong, that tremble is so fucking hot to me. It just turns on this like feral, primitive, vampire-like quality in me. A trembling man is so delicious. Like, I'm literally drooling right now just thinking about it. But only if they are standing in their own personal power as well. If I know that they are mentally strong, oh my God, I love it. If they're mentally strong and they're submitting to me and trembling, oh, it's so hot. But if I know that they are mentally fragile and trembling, I know I'm going to have to spend a lot of time and energy checking in with them, pulling back my energy, validating them, and psychically checking in with them, because sometimes subs will not be honest with themselves about what they're into or what they're up for. So there's very much a tangible difference to me as a femdom. And there's also a preference for subs who are confident in their acceptance of their submissive self. It all has to do with what's going on in their head. That inner voice is what separates I'm playing with being submissive from I am a submissive. But here's the problem. Most submissives don't realize how noisy that inner world actually is. It's not neutral. It's shaped by years of cultural conditioning, the kind that says dominance is wrong, submission is weak, or desire should be hidden. And especially in historically puritanical societies like the United States, there's a shitload of thinking that this is dirty. So even when a submissive wants to kneel fully, that little voice in their head can whisper, "You're disgusting. You're pathetic. Oh, they're going to see you for the freak that you are." And that's not the voice of your submission. That's not your true voice. That's the voice of your conditioning. And if you don't train it, it will sabotage every task, every ritual, and every beautiful moment that you are craving. So what can we fucking do about it? Well, I'm here for you. I have 5 steps. Number 1, identify the noise. Before you can train your inner submissive voice, you need to hear what it's actually saying. I often tell my submissives to take 5 minutes a day, usually after a ritual or a moment of service, and write down the raw, unfiltered things that ran through their mind. No editing, no softening. So for example, I had a submissive once who, during a FemDom experience weekend, had a couple of things that he could have done better. Now, I both do and do not expect near perfection. I do want near perfection because, well, I want to be happy. I want to feel proud of my sub. And I also don't expect perfection because I know that as my mama once said, honey, perfect is a word in the dictionary. In other words, it doesn't fucking exist in real life. I know that no sub will be perfect, but I expect them to always strive for it. It's the difference in, for example, a sub who cleans the bathroom and really skips a bunch of stuff and does a crap job and comes back to do the bare minimum, and then I'm happy that there's a sub that came to clean my bathroom in the first place. Or a sub who, when shown their shortcomings, works extra hard to clean the spots they missed. They look through new eyes at the room to see if there's anything else that they could do better, and then they take a mental note to be more detail-oriented in future service. That second one is the sub that I want. And that's what most FemDoms want, because here's a little truth for you men out there. That's generally the way that our brains work as women. It's how we think. So back to the sub who learned that his service wasn't absolute perfection to me. He really let it go to his head. Every one of his shortcomings continually replayed in his mind. And the truth was, he really was a fantastic sub. But in his mind, that voice, that wasn't his voice, it was conditioning voice that you can't do anything wrong. You have to be perfect in everything. But in his mind, all he could focus on were words of shame and disappointment to himself over not being perfect. To be clear, that wasn't words that I gave him. I just pointed out a couple things that he could have done better. But that voice in his head that conditioned him to, you have to be perfect or you failed, that was that outside conditioning that I'm talking about, that outside voice. His body was trained for being a submissive. It was great. But his mind was not strong in its submission. And that really negatively affects your service and your life as a submissive. But that awareness itself is pure fucking gold. Because once you know what your current inner voice is saying, then you can stop letting it run unchecked. So step 2, separate conditioning from truth. So step 1 was listening to, what is the voice in my head saying to me? Pay attention to that shit. Step 2 is separate the conditioning from the truth. Not every thought that comes up in your mind belongs to you. Many submissives absorb the world's shame like a fucking sponge, and then they assume it's their authentic voice. It's not. When those old messages arise, like you're weak, you're disgusting, you don't deserve this, I want you to mentally label them for what they are. Not my voice, okay? I've had sissies stand in front of the mirror repeating their mantra, their positive mantra, while that ugly noise was still whispering in the background. Like, this is wrong, this is fucked up. How fucked up are you to want that? It's uncomfortable, but knowing this, acknowledging this is where the rewiring begins. And here's something that I tell my subs, my clients, my life coaching students, pretty much anyone who will listen, because this is so important. You cannot build a house on someone else's rotting foundation. Before you can build a powerful mindset, you have to clear out what doesn't belong. And I think that this is especially true for submissive males, because there's a whole lot of societal conditioning involved in the way the male mind thinks. So separate the truth from what's been conditioned to be called truth. Step 3 is write and rehearse your dominant voice. And by dominant voice, I don't mean your dominance voice. I mean the dominant voice that's in your head. Once the noise is named, and by noise, I mean the programming that has been instilled in your heads by friends, family, media, etc., then you can create a new script. And I don't mean vague affirmations like, I'm good enough, I'm worthy. I mean words that align with your dynamic or your dream dynamic. Examples of strong inner submissive statements are, my service is sacred. I mean, that just shifts everything when you think of it that way. Your service is not something that's like makes you weak or pathetic that you want to serve. It makes you sacred. Ah, what a shift. Another one is, every act of obedience is a gift, and that makes me powerful. Another one, and this is a good one for perfectionists. My worth isn't decided by perfection, but by devotion. And I think that's really what makes a good sub. Are you devoted to learning your dominant? Are you devoted to growing into the best submissive? Are you devoted to changing to accommodate her? Like that, I feel, is what really makes a good submissive. It's not about perfection. It's about devotion. And another one is, I now honor my desires. I am a submissive. I had one sub who struggled deeply with perfectionism. Every mistake would spiral into self-loathing. So his mantra became, I learn from my mistake and I let it go and I move on. And we built rituals around this. Whenever I noticed him spiraling, we would go back. I'd be like, take some breaths. Okay, what did you learn from this? What will you do different? And once he thought about this and thought of, well, I could do this next time, or maybe I shouldn't do this, whatever it was, I'd be like, great. Now let it go and let's move on. You learned the lesson from it. You learned from it. Now let it fucking go, you know? And this became such a powerful exercise that he brought it into his everyday life. That's how inner voices are trained, not by wishing them to change, but by replacing the script daily. I personally have done this many times in my life to level myself up. It's a great way to release old patterns or things that you don't like about yourself. In case you didn't know, you can do that. I don't know if anybody has ever told you this, but if there is something you don't like about yourself, you absolutely have the power to change it. And yeah, some things are harder than others, but truly you can change yourself. It could be, I'm not a morning person. Why are you telling yourself that? Why are you affirming that all the time? And now your brain is going to be rewired to reflect that. So step 4, anchor the voice to action. Words alone aren't enough. Your inner voice needs to be connected to your body for change to happen. And one of my favorite training tools is an anchor ritual. It's so freaking simple. So you pick a physical gesture. It could be kneeling. It could be placing a hand over your heart, bowing your head. For me, I would tap my thumb to either the tip of my middle finger or my ring finger. And then you speak your mantra out loud or silently. And by mantra, I just mean the new thing that you want to be truth, your new truth, okay? And then you just keep doing that until you feel the words land and you revisit it. Over time, your body will associate that gesture with that new internal voice. So even on chaotic days, a single movement can pull you back into the mindset that you want to embody. The mindset of, I belong here, or I know who I am, you know? And this isn't just like some weird thing that I'm having you guys do. This is rooted in science and neuroscience and based on neuroplasticity. So the combination of telling yourself a new truth and doing a physical gesture along with it is how you can most quickly rewire, like legitimately rewire your brain. Okay. And this is how subs learn to move through the world without needing constant external reinforcement. And yes, everybody's going to need a little validation and confirmation at some times. I'm not talking about that, which good doms should do. I'm talking about the constant, you know, they carry their dominance presence inside them. And so that voice, that confirmation can take the place of the need, of the constant neediness that some submissives are famous for. And then step 5, revisit and reinforce. The voice of a good submissive is never done. It's trained like a muscle. When you become fit, you're not like, oh, I hit my lifting goals or I hit my weight goals. Now I'm done and I'm not going to work out anymore. I'm not going to exercise. I'm not going to lift anymore. No, that's not the way that it works. Once you hit it, you're like, boss, and you keep working out. You want to maintain that, right? It's just like that. It's tested when you're tired. It's tested when you disappoint someone. It's tested when fantasies collide with reality. All things that will happen occasionally. And that's why I encourage every submissive I work with to revisit their inner script regularly. And at this point, do I even need to mention journaling again? Like, if you're not journaling regularly, huge, huge, painful spankings to you, like way beyond punishment spankings. You must be journaling. Everyone should be journaling. It's 2025. Like, get with it. Everybody is evolving and journaling is part of that, okay? And journaling is important not just for finding calm and clarity within, but also you'll discover what used to be a struggle might not be a struggle anymore. New edges will surface. Old insecurities will fade. You'll be able to see your progress. That's one of the great benefits of journaling. You actually get to keep track of how far you've come, because a lot of times it doesn't seem like it. It doesn't feel like it because we're in the mix. But you can look back and see, like, holy shit, I've come a long fucking way, you know? And new issues will arise. And when they do, you'll be able to meet them with new language, with new structure, with new strength. So let me say this clearly. A well-trained submissive doesn't need to ask permission to feel worthy. They move through the world knowing that their submission has value. It's fucking beautiful. Their inner voice doesn't cower. It serves. And this is what makes a submissive magnetic to a dominant. It's not in how you kneel. It's not in how you obey, but truly and deeply, it's in how you think. When your inner voice is trained and confident in your role as a submissive, your submission becomes undeniable and absolutely fucking tasty. Thank you for joining me this week. I hope you will be back next week with another episode of Into the Dungeon. Again, I'm KatNash, and as always, stay kinky, my pets.